living embodiment of evil. And that's that evil endless. You must be indulgent of Dr. Verdigast's weakness.
Black Cat does have some stigma attached to it, but I also think of the cat in Constantine. You remember with Keanu Reeves, where the cat is the gateway to hell. Yeah. That's what I thought. But like, no, the Black Cat. What I've read, the Black Cat is became an icon of Halloween because of Edgar Allan Poe's The Black Cat story. It's a short story published in 1843, and it was about madness and murder. So this guy, I guess, who murders his wife, puts his wife in the wall, and then puts his cat in the wall with the dead wife. So that's very much along the lines of what Edgar Allan Poe does, but it's a classic Halloween reading that a lot of people do.
I fancied that the cat avoided my presence. I seized him. When, in his fright at my violence, he inflicted a slight wound upon my hand with his teeth.
I remember the first book that I remember vaguely, well, in high school or middle school, was Christopher Pike's The Last Vampire series.
Yeah, that was a good one.
And somebody was reading Kitty in the Midnight Hour.
That's me. But see, that wasn't during high school. That was when we were working at Red Lobster. And the guy gave me that book. He says, I want this back. And I read that book. And I was like, well, I'm not going to read it anyway. But I started reading that damn book, and I couldn't put it down. And I read like 4 or 5 different books in that series. But it's about a werewolf. It had vampires in it and stuff, yeah. And then, that's during the same year where I was introduced to David Icke. And you remember that girl gave me that big old thick book? Yeah.
This is probably getting off topic, but is that book that you gave me when I was going to Mexico? Every time I started to read it, I fell asleep.
So, Jamie, you said you've read Dean Koontz, right?
I have, yeah.
Okay, so here's a book, right? Yeah. This is a book that was my favorite Dean Koontz book. I read it, I remember, on a futon in high school, right? And this is the book right here. Dean Koontz's
Yes. Yes. That's the most memorable Dean Koontz book that I've read. Yes, that's a good book.
Would you consider that horror?
In the midst of a raging blizzard, lightning struck on the night Laura Shane was born, and a mysterious blonde-haired stranger showed up just in time to save her from dying. Years later, in the wake of another storm, Laura will be saved again. For someone is watching over her. Is he the guardian angel he seems? The devil in disguise? Or the master of a haunting destiny beyond all time and space?
But I think the elements of horror it has is like it goes back to the Gothic novel, because the Gothic novel has those elements where, especially there's like a male and a female Gothic, where the male Gothic novel has supernatural elements, like in encounters with the devil. But I think that one that Dean Koontz writes, Lightning, is more towards the female end of the Gothic genre, where you see this pursuit of the female protagonist by the dangerous male protagonist, and like she's threatened by either rape or murder. And I think that Lightning by Dean Koontz is very much towards the Gothic female version of the genre. Or the narrative.
So when you say Gothic, you're talking about like do they have strings of romanticism, like during the Romantic period, and then you get the merging of the Gothic style? So like things like Frankenstein or the Mama Prometheus or Dracula, books like that. Is that what you're referring to?
Yeah, that's the Gothic. And then there's also like Rebecca or Jane Austen wrote one as well, which is one of my favorite. I can't think of the name right now. Yeah.
Well, she had a horror movie?
It's not a horror. It's just has those elements like at Westminster. No, it's not Westminster Abbey. It's what is the name of that novel? I'll think of it and I'll tell you when I get it. But it just there's like the big castle and it takes place in the dark and there's mystery and murder and things like that. So it's just like some of the elements. Like Gothic can be thrown into the romance genre, or it can be thrown into the mystery genre. So it's a very versatile narrative style.
You mentioned Rebecca. I remember watching a movie called Rebecca by Alfred Hitchcock. Was it ever Hitchcock? But it's based off that book.
Yeah. Oh, I just thought about Northanger Abbey.
Because I remember, okay, so it was Christopher Pike, Oliver Stein, the separation between Goosebumps series and then the Fear Street series.
Oh, yes, Fear Street. Oh, I loved Fear Street.
And then Stephen King was on the same aisle, same rack.
That's the thing. That's the thing about horror, too. When I started reading Stephen King, so the biggest thing about horror is not necessarily the content, though the content is good, but it's like how the effect that it has on readers. And I remember reading Carrie. Carrie was my first Stephen King novel. And and then the second one that I did was It. And I followed that by the movie. But like when you talk about like the effect that horror fiction has on the reader, Stephen King really knows how to build up the story, like that slow burn that makes the reader go through all these different experiences as you're reading along with the story. And I honestly had to read it with, well, of course you read it with the lights on, but like not like at night or anything. You have to read it in the day, and like sometimes I slept with the light on because he's just. For me, he's that good of a writer. In his early days of writing horror.
But like you look at things like The Mist.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, how like there's this like this mist with this alternate reality, creatures from this alternate reality in it, but the horror is going on amongst the humans in the grocery store.
And the thing is, Stephen King too. Yeah, like a lot of Stephen King novels that have been adapted into miniseries are the best ones that are the best of the horror series. Like when I say this is like you don't necessarily see the monster. You just hear about the monster. You know what I'm talking about? Like you don't actually have to see it. Like I'm thinking of M. Night Shyamalan as well.
With Signs.
Yeah, with especially with Signs, you never see the monster until like towards the end of the movie, but it's just this build up that these creators do that affect the reader and how they interact with the novel.
Something at Charles.
Yeah, do we actually see the shark in Jaws?
Because it's the fear of the unknown. That's what they'll capitalize on.
There we go. The fear of the unknown.